Good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to the Colloquium on Indirect Taxes, organized by Will GST and Tax Connect. Further, I would like to introduce our speaker, Mr. Vivek Jalan. Mr. Vivek Jalan is a qualified chartered accountant, qualified LLM, and LLB. He is the chairperson of the Indirect Tax Core Group of the CII. Also, he is the chairperson of the Fiscal Affairs Committee of BCCI. He is a regular speaker of various professional forums on the key areas of direct and indirect taxes. During the session, please put your video and microphone off. If anyone has any query, please write in the chat box. We will answer all your queries at the end of the session. Now we request Vivek Sir to take the session to forward.
Yeah. Thank you, Titli. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Very much audible, sir.
Thank you. Just share my presentation. Yeah. So, good morning to all the participants present here, and thank you for joining this colloquium on indirect taxes. This is now a monthly affair. From the last 9 months, we have been doing this to just catch up on the developments in indirect taxes over the last month from the time we had our last colloquium. So I think last colloquium we had on 10th or 11th of March. Post that, whatever important developments have been there, and most important, the impact of the developments we'll discuss here over the next 1 hour 15 minutes. Most important thing in a live webcast, the biggest benefit is that we can interact, and therefore whenever you have questions during the webinar on any issue in indirect taxes, please do keep on typing in the chat box, and the last 15-20 minutes we will answer all your queries to the best extent possible. Similar webcasts we have on monthly updates on direct taxes also. And from Will GST, we have started the direct taxes updates also. You must be all getting the direct taxes update also, including the direct tax Vista, which is their weekly bulletin also. So direct and indirect taxes both. We look to cater to including FEMA, etc. also. Here today we'll discuss only the indirect taxes development. So, friends, now the biggest development in GST over the last 6 months, specifically and generally last 1.5 years, is the litigation on GST and indirect taxes. Litigation in the GST has various forms. We have all seen over the last 4 years. There can be an invocation of Section 61, that is scrutiny of returns. However, Section 61 was invoked left, right, and center over the last 2 to 3 years. Every month after filing the returns for all the states, by and large, you were getting notices which you had to reply, ASMT 10 notices, which you reply in ASMT 11, etc. And then even the ASMT 12 was not received. If you have been following this colloquium and our various webinars, we have always been telling, and for all our clients, we have always been insisting that wherever you get an ASMT 10 and reply by ASMT 11, please keep on following up for ASMT 12. Before you get ASMT 12, the case is not closed. Now, in the SOP issued by CBIC on scrutiny of the returns, that is also mandated. ASMT 12 is mandated to be issued by the department or Ashoka's notice, whichever is deemed fit. But the case needs to be closed. Therefore, for all the past ASMT 11s, if you have, please make a list of them and start following up. At least invoke this circular or note on SOP on scrutiny of the returns and follow up for the ASMT 12 and get your case closed. There are various other facets of litigation under GST. The department can invoke section 65, that is GST audit by the department. That is now across the country in every state. Almost all the dealers are getting the notices for conducting of GST audit. Again, 2020, we have seen the audits were hardly closed, but now it is time bound that the audit needs to be closed within 3 to 6 months, maximum 6 months. So now even the scrutiny audit, whatever you might call it, it needs to be closed in a time bound manner. There are other facets of litigation, investigation, search, seizure, summons. Very, very important. Now there is no hearing most of the times, and I will tell you why. There is a recent judgment by the Allahabad High Court. I will tell you why the department is resorting to summons and not a general hearing, right, under GST. Then there is another facet, section 71 on access to business premises. Again, that is an important aspect in GST litigation. We'll go through that. So first of all, SOP on scrutiny of the returns, which was issued in March 2022. So friends, first of all, two important things. Even before you start reading the SOP, you have to be aware of two things. This SOP is mandatory and binding only on the central GST officers. Until and unless the states mirror this SOP by their own SOP, it is not binding on state GST officers in the same way as Circular 122 on document identification number is binding on central GST officers. Few states have mirrored the DIN circular and it is mandatory for or binding on those state GST officers. But like West Bengal has not mirrored the DIN SOP circular and therefore it is not mandated or binding on the West Bengal state GST officers. Similarly, this SOP on scrutiny of the returns is binding as of now only on central GST officers. Second, this entire SOP or scrutiny of the returns will in the coming periods become faceless. There will be an online scrutiny of the returns only and there would be no manual interface to start with. As and when the module is developed, it will become faceless. As of now, it requires some manual intervention, but going forward, like income tax and customs, it will also become faceless. Another important thing is that this SOP is only for 17-18 and 18-19 financial years. Post that, they have not invoked this SOP as of now. So this SOP is for scrutiny of the returns under GST under section 61 read with rule 99. Section 61 read with rule 99 empowers the proper officer. Now, who is the proper officer? Superintendent of GST. Of course, over in AC, DC, Joint Commissioner, Additional Commissioners are there. But proper officer to start with is Superintendent, the lowest, or almost the number 2 officer. The lowest category is the Inspector, of course, but Superintendent, or in income tax, or what you call ITO, or in sales tax, what you call CTO. So Superintendent or CTO or ITO, whatever, equivalent, is the proper officer for scrutiny of the returns. This section 61 empowers this superintendent or proper officer to verify the GST returns for correctness. So any mistake, if he finds, he can invoke section 61 and issue an ASMP 10. For doing what? For seeking explanation from the taxpayer on any aspect which is prima facie visible to him as being irregular, and the taxpayer has to reply to the ASMP 10 while ASMP 11. Okay. In again a time bound manner. Now the timelines, important thing is that the timelines have been mentioned in the SOP also. In case the taxpayer replies while ASMP 11, the proper officer has 2 ways out. One, he can issue a show cause under 73 or 74 if he does not agree with the explanation, or he can, if he is satisfied with the explanation, he has to, I'm using the word has to, that it is binding on him to issue ASMP 12 and close the case. Important is, if there is no response from the taxpayer, then the proper officer has got varied powers. He can either issue advice to the audit division to start the GST audit, or the anti-evasion or DGGI to investigate the matter, or to the commissioner for such other action as may be deemed fit, access to business premises, etc., etc. Now, very, very important in this SOP is that it is based on certain information. We all, whoever is practicing income tax over here, you would have seen section 148 evolve from 1st of April 2021, and a plethora of litigations across the country in section 148 cases are there. When section 148 was amended or proposed to be amended while the finance bill of 2021 in income tax, there was a clause for flagging of information. So section 148 at that time could be only invoked when certain information was flagged. Again, now that has been taken off. Now it can be on any information, will not go into income tax. But here in GST, this SOP requires that section 61 scrutiny would be invoked only in case there is some information which comes from DGARM. What is DGARM? Now almost all of us are aware of. It is based, this wing of the GST is based out of Delhi, Connaught Place, this LIC building, which is the data analytics wing of the GST. So why data analytics, and what data analytics also I will take you through. 13 points they have mentioned. These 13 data analytic points would be scrutinized by the DGARM prima facie, and if they find any issue in these 13 data analytic points, or as it evolves over a period of time, then they would provide these GSTIN numbers based on risk category to the field principal commissioner, and thereafter the principal commissioner will take it forward. We will discuss how. So DGARM would be the initiator of this scrutiny of returns. Before DGARM invokes this scrutiny of the returns, before that, the superintendent cannot initiate Section 61 scrutiny of the returns. Right? It has been laid down in this SOP. So, what is the flow of the events? The DGARM, it calls out the GSTINs as per the data analytics. That what are the GSTINs which as per DGARM are risky, and on the basis of the risk categorized by the DGARM, the principal commissioner will forward it to the superintendent. The superintendent would make a schedule of 3 GSTINs minimum every week, which he will scrutinize, and there would be a monthly report back to the Director General of GST headquarters on the flow or the status of the scrutiny of those returns. So DGRM, it gives the GSTINs which need to be scrutinized to the principal commissioner of GST of your city. Principal commissioner within 1 week, or within 3 days, he gives it to the superintendent or ACDC. Within 7 days, they give a schedule as to which week they will take up which GSTINs for scrutiny. Within 1 week of that, here, this is the timeline on your screen. So within 1 week, the superintendent issues the ASMT 10 to those GSTINs. Maximum within 1 month of receiving the notice, the superintendent gets 1 month to issue the notice in ASMT 10 to the taxpayers. Within 1 month of receiving the taxpayers or the notice, maximum the taxpayers have to reply in ASMT 11, and within 1 month of the receiving ASMT 11, the proper officer needs to issue either ASMT 12 or show cause notice. If the ASMT 11 is not received by the taxpayer within 1 month, then the proper officer can go on for 65 GST audit, 67 investigation, summons, access to business premises, 71, etc., etc. So this is the flow. So by and large, it is stated that within a period of 3 months from the date when DGARM intimates to the commissioner that, gentlemen, these GSTINs have to be scrutinized within 3 months, more or less, the scrutiny needs to be complete. So within 3 months, or from the date of receipt of ASMT 12, within 2 months, if you do not get any reward from the commissionerate or the proper officer, you can start following up for ASMT 12. The proper officer is duty bound to issue you an ASMT 12 to close the case. This is very, very important, friends. most of our clients, in the previous litigation, we had hundreds of litigations where we are replying to notices, and always the clients told us that, gentlemen, you are doing a lot of hard work. You are replying to notices, speaking to the officers. Where is the order? I'm sure those of you who are handling indirect GST also, you must be facing the same question from your audit committee, from your board of directors or CFO. Now you can do result oriented litigation under GST. So this is an important and good development. Whatever notices you might have got before March, where documents were required other than ASMT 10, all of those stand null and void. You might ask the proper officer to issue ASMT 12-10 as per SOP. However, it is applicable only to CGST officers, as I told you. A very, very important point in this SOP is that the scrutiny of the returns can be done for one financial year at a time. So now again, this monthly GST notices in ASMT 12 will be a thing of the past. If you get for 1 month, 2 month notices in ASMT 12, you can invoke this SOP and ask them that, gentlemen, please invoke section 61 only 1 year at a time. However, this is only applicable for 17, 18, 18, 19. After that, 19, 20, 20, 21, 21, 22, this SOP is not applicable as of now. Now, this scrutiny of the returns, the orders which you get, that there are various slabs as per circular number 31. Superintendent can issue you an SCN only till 20 lakh rupees, 20 lakh to 2 crore, DC or AC, 2 crore and above. If the tax amount is 2 crore and above, then it is only the joint commissioner or additional commissioner which can issue you a SCN. So again, important these limits of the SCN. Now we come to the most important part of this SOP. That is, what is the data analytics which the DGARM will do. It is important for all the taxpayers to start immediately in their companies or in their organizations these data analytics. There are 13 points, primarily 11 points, 2 additional points. 13 types of data analytics have been mentioned in this SOP, which you also can do for your organizations so that you can be ready for departmental scrutiny. You would know beforehand when you are probable, when it is probable to get the scrutiny notice. Yes. GSTR 3B versus GSTR 1. Voice is breaking. Oh, now okay. Okay. So, first GSTR 3B versus GSTR 1. In GSTR 3B, again, as of now, you might not be remembering the tables of GSTR 3B 1, 2A. So I will tell you in layman's word, you can go through this PPT at your own pace. And once you go through this PPT and GSTR 1, 3B, 2A, you would come to know exactly what we have discussed over here. So in GSTR 3B, there are primarily two tables where you pay the tax, outward tax liability. Table 3.1.A and B, right? B is zero rated, A is all other ITC. Other than that, it is reverse charge. Reverse charge is separately dealt with, or it is exempt of non-GST supply. So you don't pay tax. There is no tax liability there. So you have to compare table number 4 and 11. 4, 5, 6, 7 and 11 of GSTR 1. Table number 4 in GSTR 1 is outward tax liability, 5 is B2C large, 7 is B2C small, 6 is zero rated, and 7, 11 is advances. 7 is B2C small. So all of this, the tax liability which is accruing while GSTR 1, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 11, you total that has to be less than GSTR 3B, 3.1.A and 3.1.B. You can develop an Excel file, friends, link it to your 3B and 1, and you can do this data analytics yourself in your office, or you can ask your ERP service providers also to start to give you this kind of a report. Okay. You don't need to wait for the department's SOP or department's notice in this regard. Second, RCM checking. So what is RCM? Where do you get RCM? In GSTR 2A, you get it in table number 4.4B or table 3 and 5. So GSTR 2A, 3 and 5, you link it with GSTR 3B, table number 3, the relevant column, the row for RCM, and compare it vis-a-vis table number 4B, 2 and 4B, 4A, 2 and 4A, 3. Right? Where you take the input tax credit. So the amount of input tax credit in RCM should not be more than what is reflected in the corresponding tables of your GSTR 2A for RCM. Right? However, there will always be a difference. Why? Because here, say for example, you are taking the services of a transporter who is not registered. He will not file his GSTR 1. And to that extent, your GSTR 2A will not reflect that RCM. Okay, your voice is not clear.
Is it clear now? Now, okay.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah. So RCM, you need to check this again. Once you go through this to now, when we are discussing this, this is might be sounding technical, but when you go through this SOP at your own pace in your office and discuss it with your ERP team, you would know exactly what to link. You do not need to wait for DGARM notice or your field notice for that. Again, for ITC, you are taking in table number 4A4 for ISD. You need to link it with GSTR 2A table number 7. So there, if there should not be any difference, or whatever ITC you take in 4A4 should not be more than what is reflected in GSTR 2A table number 7. Similarly, ITC which you avail in 4A5 should not be more than 2A table number 3 and 5 in totality. However, friends, let me tell you that there always might be some difference, and there will be some difference always. Why? Because previous periods ITC you might be taking now, because in the previous period it was not available in your GSTR 2B, and now with this amendment in rules you cannot take more than GSTR 2B. So it is you will always get a difference. However, the moment your ERP you get a report for that, you would be ready for that difference explanation month on month. it does not mean that the moment you get an ASMT 10, you will always get a demand. No. Either you can explain and he has to agree with your explanation if it is logical, or you might get a show cause notice. So most of the cases we have seen now, once we got a show cause notice of around 4 crores, right? A demand of 4 crores, a show cause come demand. And once we explained, it got reduced to 30,000 rupees, right? So ASMT 10 does not mean that it will become an order like service tax or central excise, right? We have seen in service tax, central excise, the moment you get a show cause gone, thereafter it will not get dropped. But good thing is that this section 61 ASMT 10 is not like old service tax and central excise. We have seen across the country, and once the demand was 40 crores because the officer did not even understand what are commercial credit notes. The moment we told him commercial credit note, it got reduced to 7,000 of rupees. So this is the positive aspect of this, but again stating that you have to be ready for the notice. Next, point number 5 for reconciliation. So taxable value declared in the exempt supplies. In the supplies in 3 point other than exempt supplies, in 3.1.a of GSTR 3B should not be less than the TDS and TCS amount reflected in Form 2A, table number 9. So what is that? TDS for government contracts, the government and government departments and local authorities, they deduct your TDS. And if you are supplying through e-commerce operators and others, they collect TCS. So the taxable value in table number 9 of GSTR 2A, which reflects when your e-commerce operator and government deducts or collects TDS or TCS, that needs to be compared with your GST T3.1.A, right? So you cannot, again, that has to be matched. Now we are going into serious territory, right? Yeah, show me. Great. Please keep on typing your questions in the chat box. We'll reply all at the same time after half an hour or so of further discussions. Now we are getting into serious territory. Comparison of GSTR 1 or tax liability in 3.1.A plus B of GSTR 3B vis-a-vis e-way bill. Friends, we have been telling this from the last, I think, years, that this is going to happen, right? Because it is not a new phenomenon. It is always been existent in VAT, right? So it had to happen in GST also. Your e-way bill data would be compared with your tax liability data in 3B and also with GSTR 1, right? So e-way bill in the GST portal, it is available only for 6 months. It is important that your tax departments in your company or your consultant keep on reconciling, keep on downloading your e-way bill data, keep on reconciling with your tax payable vis-a-vis the e-way bill liability. We have already replied to various notices on this, right? And now it is in the SOP. So it is a common affair now in GST. We need to be ready for this. Next, ITC in respect of taxpayers whose registrations have been cancelled ab initio. Friends, here my respectful and legal submissions are two. Number one, the judgment of the Honorable Calcutta High Court in the case of LGW Industry. You can always rely on this, and if you're in your state, the officers do not agree to the Calcutta High Court judgment or argue territorial jurisdiction, you can go to your own high courts also. I'm sure they will take a logical view. What was the view of the Honorable Calcutta High Court in LGW Industries? It was a doctrine, not a view. And it was a very, very important and logical doctrine. Now, say, for example, the GSTIN of your supplier was cancelled on 31st of March 2022. If your purchase from that supplier was received before 31st March 2022, that is the date of cancellation of the supplier's GSTIN, then input tax credit cannot be denied to you. However, if the purchase from the supplier was after 31st March 2022, that is the date of the cancellation of the GSTIN of your supplier, only then can your input tax credit be denied. Important point you should note is that you should identify your suppliers. How do you identify the suppliers? If you see page number 6 of that judgment, para 3 of page number 6, it says you as a recipient have to identify your suppliers. How do you identify your suppliers? Gentlemen, we are doing this for large companies across the country. You need to make a list of your major suppliers. Please conduct a physical verification or get a physical verification conducted by an independent agency. Collect your suppliers, RC, etc., etc., and take an independent consultant's report that your suppliers were identified and existing on the date of the transaction. This, if you produce as an evidence before your High Court, I am sure your High Court would take a rational judge stance in this matter. Second, the Honorable Apex Court's judgment in the case of Arise India Limited, where it laid down important doctrine of impossible performance. The Honorable Apex Court upheld the Delhi High Court's judgment in the case of Arise India Limited and others in the case of Delhi VAT, that the recipient cannot be asked or expected to go after the suppliers and keep on seeing whether the supplier has paid the tax to the government or not. So even if the department invokes section 16.1, 16.2c, that if the tax has not been paid, then it will not give the input tax credit. You can rely on Arise India Limited judgment. Next, ineligible ITC availed in respect of invoices. Now many of us are making this mistake. There is a place in GSTR 3B to disclose ineligible ITC. Most of us are reporting 0 in that column. Friends, 0 is also a figure. It is always better to track your ineligible ITC and disclose it in your GSTR 3B. Although it is revenue neutral, but it is better to disclose it. Next is the DGRM will track if you have filed your last return, that is September's return, that is the time barring period as of now from this year, from the notification of Finance Act 2022, it will be 30th of November. So if you have taken any ITC of the previous year and disclose it in table 8C or table 13 of GSTR 9, then you would come up for automatic scrutiny on time barring under section 16.4. Import of goods, again, it has to be matched. Your table 4A1 as for GSTR 3B has to be matched with table number 10 and 11 of GSTR 2A for import of goods and received from SEZ. And reversals, again, important point number 1, many of us, what we are doing in 3B, we are netting off the input tax credit and not showing a reversal under 42-43 in 4B1 and 4B1. That is the wrong way to disclose. You might get a notice in this. Number 1. Number 2, Very important, you can see my YouTube channel also around 2 years back. My video is there where we have held from day one that when you give a credit note, GST credit note to your customer, always have a declaration from them that they are reversing the corresponding ITC. On the contrary, when you get a credit note from your suppliers, ensure that you show the reversal of ITC in 4B2. Otherwise, you might get into a scrutiny case or a risky case. And there are others where you have late filed your 3B, you might get a notice under section 50 for interest and penalty, etc. So friends, this is the SOP. Now, how to handle, we have discussed few points, critical points, how to prepare for GST audit and GST scrutiny. First, an all India problem, state-wise trial balance. Friends, many companies, taxpayers across the country through various chambers of commerce, trade associations, they have always been representing before the commissioners, before the board, that state-wise trial balance cannot be maintained. However, it is a requirement of the Act under Section 71. You would say that Section 71 is always access to business premises. Why will we give it with Section 65 GST audit, etc., etc.? But the verdict is state-wise trial balance is mandatory. We have been making it state-wise trial balance for all our clients. Many large companies have been making it. It is time that all taxpayers make your state-wise trial balance. It is not a rocket science. If you apply your mind, you can always make it. Again, there are ways to rationalize this provision. Maybe the balance sheet items, what we have done is that profit and loss trial balance we have made. Ensure that the profit of the states is equivalent to the total profit of all the say 25, 26, 32 states is equal to the audited trial balance profit. Balance sheet, all the fixed asset, other than if it is identified, take it in your HO, all the assets liability in your balance sheet, other than if it is identified, take it in your HO. And like you prepared consignment account to all the accountants who are sitting here, you might have seen consignment accounts in class 11 and 12. West Bengal balance in the books of Maharashtra, Maharashtra balance in the books of West Bengal. Like this, you have debit and credit assets and liabilities, and you will see that your trial balance finally is made, right? Whatever you do, but it is a mandatory requirement. Next, bank book. Now, in many of the states, for many of our clients, what we have been asked is, give us the bank statement. How will we give the bank statement? Thousands and thousands of pages of bank statements are there for those registered in 30, 32 states. And what will you do with the bank statements? So we have told the officers, we have reasoned out with them, and they have said, okay, you give the bank book for the particular state certified by your CFO. So for each state, you have to prepare different bank books that can be easily, even now, many of you would say, no, it is not possible. Our accounts department is saying it is not possible. Gentlemen, we have done it in SAP. We have done it in Microsoft Navision. It is possible. So kindly try. The department will ask you at least for a certified bank book for the state to check whether the payments have been made, payments have been received, etc. So it is important that we get ready for it. Registers, of course, purchase register, sales register, but two important registers, register of your delivery challan and credit note, especially commercial credit notes. Important. Stock registers, inventory registers, moving registers, very important. If you have high ITC utilization, you should have the reasons for high ITC utilization made, right? Because that will be asked. In fact, this is the biggest risk criteria, which the DGRM will forward the cases for scrutiny. So if you are a taxpayer with high ITC utilization, please keep your explanations ready based on facts and law. Okay, so other points you can go through at your own pace. We'll share this PPT with you. Some very important case laws. While there are many important case laws, even after culling out only the important case laws, still there are around 15-20 I have taken out which are important. We will discuss in brief just the final verdict and how it will impact or benefit trade and industry. Friends, first of all, those of you who are practicing income tax, you know very well section 154, rectification of errors in income tax. Okay. Yeah, we will share the PPT with all the participants. So section 154 in income tax, section 161 in CGST is equivalent to section 154 in income tax, but section 154 in income tax, the time barring is 4 years. Here only 3 months from the date of the order. So if you find any mistake in the order within 3 months from the date of the order, you can go for rectification. If you get an assessment order which is prima facie faulty, however, you act on the assessment order. If you get a show cause, assessment, reassessment, or any other notice which is faulty prima facie, but it is not faulty in substance and in effect. So finally, you allege that if you allege that it is not a speaking show cause notice, the facts are not very clear. It is not an speaking ASMT 10. The points are not very clear. It has not been explained. But what you do, you reply to the show cause notice, gone, case over. The moment you participate in the adjudicating proceedings, right? The moment you participate in the adjudication proceedings, you are gone. Then you cannot allege at a higher forum or high court that CC, while I have participated, now I have got an order, but now I am alleging even the show cause was defective because it was not a detailed show cause notice. So if you do not get a detailed show cause notice, you get a vague show cause notice, you invoke section 160 immediately that this gentleman, this is a vague show cause notice. I am not participating in the adjudicating proceedings itself. The same was held by the Jharkhand High Court in the case of Godavari Commodities Limited. Now, important again judgment, we have always heard that go to the High Court only in matters of where points of law is concerned, not on matters of facts. But the Bombay High Court has said that even if there is an alternative efficacious remedy existing, but if it is such a matter of fact also that your fundamental right is violated, you can directly go to High Court. The rule of efficacious alternate remedy existing is a rule of convenience and discretion and not a rule of law. Very important judgment, friends. You can keep it. Tomorrow, if your counsel says that no, you cannot go to High Court for this, at least in the state of Maharashtra, this is the Bombay High Court judgment. You can go through this judgment and invoke this. Okay, what are the prerequisites of a speaking order? Very important judgment. Certain employees of Larsen and Toubro are here. So you see Larsen and Toubro's judgment of the Apex Court, and you see Bindavan Beverages judgment of the Apex Court. In central excise regime, your show cause notice has to be a speaking show cause notice. It has to be specific. It cannot be vague. If it is vague, you can go ahead and challenge it And if it is proved to be vague, then you can get a relief by quashing the show cause notice. Interest on GST refunds. Now various councils across the country are there. They have relied on the judgment of Godavari and they have invoked this 9% interest where the department has delayed in the refunds. Well, the doors are now shut for interest on GST refunds by the department at more than 6%. Well, the various councils, they are not happy with this order, but it is the order of the highest court in the country. Maybe, they may be going for review of this. However, the apex court has ruled that on GST refunds, if they are delayed, you cannot demand more than 6% interest other than if it relates to provision to section 56 where the refund is delayed after an adjudicating order or a appellate order is passed. Well, very, very important judgment of the apex court again. Now, we have faced this kind of a scenario where ex parte orders was done by a southern state, by officers of a southern state in India in the case of VAT. In the case of VAT, again in Allahabad, the Honorable Allahabad High Court had imposed cost on the office joint commissioner on passing an illegal, erroneous, perverse order on an ex parte basis. The Honorable Apex Court has overturned the order of the Allahabad High Court and said that an order, mind that it is very important, please listen carefully. The Honorable Apex Court has said that the order can be illegal also. It can be erroneous. It can be perverse also, but it need not be suffering from the malified intention of not being in good faith. So this order of the Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Chandra Prakash Mishra versus Flipkart India Private Limited, this will go a long, long way in shaping up the litigation of the country. Friends, only yesterday in one of the states in the country, we had an issue where our team member had gone with the documents to the officer. The officer refused to take the documents also. Friends, you all might be witnessing such circumstances. Be very, very careful after this Flipkart judgment by the Honorable Apex Court. Tomorrow, your officer, he might refuse to take the documents, and while passing the order, he can allege that the party did not give me the documents, and he might pass an ex parte order. This judgment of the Honorable Apex Court will come to his rescue that it might be an illegal order, but it is in good faith. Friends, our respectful submission and our advice, do not, what is gone is gone. Going forward in litigation, may it be in direct tax, may it be in indirect tax, always ensure you have the receipt copy of your documents or submissions made to the officer. If the officer refuses to provide you the, receipt, please mail it across to the officer in his email ID, or you send it across through speed post, or do both. But do not do this mistake of not keeping the evidence of submission of your documents. This order of the Honorable Apex Court in the case of Chandra Prakash Mishra versus Flipkart will come to the rescue of the officers. Friends, now again a very important and a good judgment by the Honorable Apex Court in the case of Star Delta Exim. For all those taxpayers who are getting similar notices across various states and by the DGGI, the Honorable Apex Court has relied on the Master Circular on Show Cause Notices, Master Circular number 10653 in Central Excise, where if you get various Show Cause notices from DGGI, then DGCEI, and the field officers, then the Show Cause notice will be adjudicating by one of the officers, one of the departments where the amount of the evasion or allegation is higher. So relying upon this master circular, the Honorable Apex Court has passed the order in the case of Star Delta Exim. So if you have a show cause notice from, say, your state commissioner, central commissioner, as well as from the DGGI, you can rely on this Star Delta Exim judgment of the Honorable Apex Court and you see, get your cases transferred to the DGGI. To the extent I am aware, even the DGGI or the CBIC are working on a circular to this effect. Possibly, maybe you will see a circular very soon on this. Okay, I told you in the beginning why the department is resorting to summons and not hearing in GST. The Honorable Allahabad High Court has held in the case of Suresh Balkrishna Jajra versus Union of India that Section 116, which requires the representation of a taxpayer through a authorized representative, advocate, chartered accountant, cost accountant, company secretary, that cannot be invoked in the case of a summon where the participation of the taxpayer is required. So in case of a summon, we have always been stating this, it is the discretion of your officer to allow an AR or not in the summon room. If the officer feels, then he might bar the AR from entering the summon room. So that is why you see in GST, summons under section 70 issued and not hearing notices. Okay, waybill cases. Now there have been plethora of waybill cases where it is very, very clear that, in case there is no allegation that there is an evasion of tax, then just for few documents not being there, your vehicle cannot be detained and 200% penalty cannot be levied. Madras High Court judgment in the case of Algae Labs Private Limited has held the same. There are various other High Court judgments in this regard. You can take the benefit of that. Gujarat High Court judgment again important where you have claimed higher duty drawback in July, August, September 2017 and you are denied refund on GST. Then you can pay back your higher duty drawback if any availed and get the IGST refund. Bill to ship to, suppose say you have your registered office in Maharashtra. However, you import at the Chennai port. Your customer is in Haryana. From the Chennai port, can you directly send the material to your customer in Haryana, although you are registered in Maharashtra? Answer is yes. You can do a bill to ship to dispatch from Chennai port directly to your customer in Haryana. There are various rulings on this. Also, the various High Court judgments in this. Same has been held by the Advanced Ruling Authority in the case of Euroflix transmissions in the state of Telangana. Customs matter, say for example, you have imported certain goods, you have filed your bill of entry on 31st of March, the customs rate change on 2nd of April when your bill of entry assessment is done and tax is paid. Which is the customs rate or which would be applicable? The rate which is applicable is the date of the filing of bill of entry, not the date of assessment of bill of entry. Same has been held by the Delhi Sestat in the case of Greenlam Industries Limited. Okay, PLC charges for builders they are not included in construction charges. Very, very weird judgment again by an appellate advanced ruling authority, but we know that it is just a view of the department. However, our view is that PLC charges are a composite supply of construction. Even the advanced ruling in this case has held that PLC charges GST is applicable even if the PLC charges is received for post CC transfers of house property. Our respectful submission in this case is that this matter can be contested. We, in our legal submission, it is not the right decision by the advanced ruling authority. Water. What is treated water? What is water for general purposes? Very, very simple, very, very important advanced ruling, appellate ruling is given. This is a very, very important. The canon of purposive construction has been invoked by this advanced ruling authority. They say that water is only hydrogen and oxygen, H2O. So if that be the case, then no water is pure water. Every water will be treated water liable to 18% GST. That is not the case. The canon of purposive construction, you have to see what is the purpose of the water, and it is not even applicable only for water. You have to see in every classification case what is the purpose for which the recipient will utilize the product or service. That is important to determine the classification. So even STP treated water which is made fit for drinking, that is not pure water, but it is water for general purposes exempt under GST. It cannot be treated as the same as aerated water or mineral water, which has a specific purpose. Very, very good, important, reasoned judgment. You can go through this at your own pace. Okay, sales promotion we have discussed. You can go through our video in our YouTube channel. And now department is saying that sales promotion item, they are treating it as gift, etc., etc. We have discussed it at threadbare in our YouTube channel. There is a video. You can go through that. But our respectful submission are that promotional items, ITC shall be allowed. It cannot be denied, right? It is our legal submission in this case, and respectfully, we beg to disagree with the Appellate Advanced Ruling Authority of Tamil Nadu. West Bengal entry tax matter for those taxpayers who are registered in West Bengal. Tribunal very recently has held section 5 and 6 of entry tax in West Bengal, which was retrospectively applied from 1st of July 2017 with retrospective effect from 2012. It is held to be ultra virus. Question is whether taxpayers can get a refund of entry tax or not. Well, various facts have to be seen. The law needs to be analyzed separately, but our thumb rule, if you ask us, is if you have made the payment of entry tax in West Bengal, wide SOD, settlement of dispute, difficult to get the refund. But if you have paid generally entry tax, you might stand a chance for refund after this tribunal judgment in the case of Tata Steel Limited. Okay, pure agent has been contested again and again. Very important judgment of advanced ruling. If you are taking a reimbursement, if you are contesting that you are a pure agent, you have to attach the invoice. Say for example, I am a service provider, say Tax Connect is providing services to your company, and on man hour, on salary of the our employee plus a certain percentage of our fees. And if we give you a salary certificate, what we are paying to our employees, then we are acting as a pure agent and GST is not applicable. But if we charge you on the basis of man hours, then we are not pure agent because we are not documenting that we are taking only that much money which we are paying on your behalf. Okay, very, very important judgment by Honorable Calcutta High Court on inverted duty matters. It has overturned the respective para of circular number 135. Now, what did circular 135 say about inverted duty refund? It said that I'm explaining with an example for all those who have this kind of a case. Now, if say, for example, you are dealing in say works contract. If on say 31st of March, the rate of GST on or let us take a product you are dealing in stationery item. On 31st of March 2022, the rate of stationery was 18%. 1st of April 2022, it became 5%. Then whether inverted duty refund is available on for 13% on the stock which is lying in hand of that stationery or not. Circular 135 said that for traders it is not applicable. The Honorable Calcutta High Court has overturned this circular and declared it to be ultra vires the act, imposing an additional restriction which was not there in the act. And now, at least for the taxpayers which are registered in West Bengal, you can take the inverted duty refund even if you are a trader and you had stock of certain material where the rate of duty was subsequently reduced. Okay, there are certain circulars by Rajasthan state authorities on VC. This you can go through at your own pace. Filing of 3B, we have discussed this. Rajasthan and Maharashtra circular is also there. How to find correct 3Bs, we have discussed this while we were discussing the SOP on scrutiny of the return. Important circular number 6 by Kerala High Court. Kerala state authorities on the basis of the decision by the Kerala High Court. No detention of vehicles can happen only on the allegation that there is an undervaluation. If the field officers feel that the goods which are moving have been undervalued, they can upload the evidence why they feel so on the common portal, and then the jurisdiction officer can investigate the matter. But the moving squad cannot detain the vehicle and impose penalty just on the allegation of undervaluation. So many judgments are there now by the various high courts that until unless there is a alleged and evidential evasion of tax, then just on procedural errors, there cannot be 200% penalty in weighable cases. Okay, input tax credit refund issues. Now we will go through these briefly. Important rulings have been there. Now question is if you are making your own integrated factory, very, very important. We have dealt with this in the case in the state of Gujarat. Now, say, for example, you made an integrated factory for production of, say, printing ink. And you have a common foundation. That common foundation, there is a factory building also where even workers also reside. And for the plant also, there is a common foundation. So if you see section 17, subsection 5, clause D, then for plant and machinery, you get the credit of civil structure of foundation on which the plant and machinery is built in. But for building, you do not get that credit. Question is, do you get a proportionate credit for the foundation to the extent of plant and machinery? The advance ruling has held that it cannot be availed, but our legal submission in this is, of course, yes, to the extent of plant and machinery, you can get the credit of foundation on which the plant and machinery is erected. Okay, we have From our student days, we have always understood that, you see, there is a relevance of comma and full stop in the tax laws. There is a very, very important colon in the GST Act 17.5B. What is the colon? You see on your screen, the colon on 17.5B3, it is marked on in red on your screen. We have discussed this in our earlier colloquium also. So even if you have a factory and you provide canteen services to your workers, which is mandatory as per Factories Act, can the input tax credit be availed by you for the food and beverages which are supplied to your workers? The Honorable Rajasthan High Court, the Advanced Ruling Authority of Haryana has held no. You cannot avail the input tax credit of the food and beverages because the colon is against 17.5B3 and not against 17.5B1. And therefore this colon or this proviso is applicable only to 17.5B3. This provision under 17.5B requires that food and beverage credit can be availed if it is supplied due to an obligation on an employer. So even if you are employer or company is obliged under Factories Act to give the workers food and beverage or lunch, even then input tax credit cannot be availed. This was held by the Advanced Ruling Authority. Friends, our legal submission is that we beg to differ with the Advanced Ruling Authority. The relevance of this colon, while it can be argued, but the intent of the law cannot be the same. Had it been so that one against what act is a leave travel or home travel concession mandatory for the employers, as of now we are not aware. Our respectful submission is that even if barring, even notwithstanding the proviso, but if it is mandatory for an employer to provide certain services by an act of parliament, then the credit of that expense should be available to the employer or the dealer. Okay. Again, advanced ruling authorities, they keep on giving interesting and adventurous rulings. In one of the cases in Haryana, in the cases of Buma India Private Limited, they made a distinction. If transportation facility to the employee is available as per terms of the employment letter, they are saying that, okay, we will not consider that to be as a gift. However, if there is no terms of employment that the employer has to give transportation, but then the employer without the terms of employment and contractual liability gives the transportation service, then it will be considered to be as a gift. Well, uh, you know, again, our respectful submission is that this we do not agree with this. Another advanced ruling there where the warehouse was built for leasing and the input tax credit on the warehouse was denied by the advanced ruling authority of Haryana. Again, but you can invoke the Orissa High Court judgment in the case of safari retreats. We understand Supreme Court SLP has been filed by the department in the case of safari retreats. So few important amendments and developments in customs and DGFT. Operationalization of script transfer recording modules. Now it was seen by the DGFT that ROTEP scripts generally they were fraudulently transferred because it is an online module. Now they have brought in restrictions that after the allotment, after a certain period of time only you can transfer script. And if it is transferred by A from A to B, then B can transfer only after lapse of a certain hours or certain period of time. And number, even there is a restriction on number of script transferred. And you have to keep on relinking your IEC code and your DSC and your Aadhaar card with your ROTTEP accounts online on the DGFT website to prevent fraudulent transfer of ROTTEP and other scripts. In customs, just like GST, there is a cash ledger now. By the Finance Act 2019, Section 51A was introduced in customs, where it was provided that there would be a cash ledger in customs. Now it is available in customs, so you can keep your money transferred in customs. Cash ledger form ECL 3 is there, by which you can transfer money, and you can use the cash ledger for payment of customs duty, interest, tax, penalty, etc. You can even get a refund in form ECL 5 from the cash ledger. Okay, SAD refund, a very old case, but SAD refund is available even after 1 year if you have not sold the goods. Transaction value cannot be denied by the customs authority if the onus to proving that transaction value is not fair is on the customs authority. If the importer proves with evidence that there is a separate import transaction where the transaction value is lower than the instant transaction value. So friends, we have tried to cover the most important developments. This PPT would, yes, many of the participants are saying that PPT, yeah, it would be available by today itself. The video recording would be available on the YouTube channel also. We will take all the questions now. Okay, Shomik says, yeah, you have raised your hand. Okay, we'll start with you only. Yeah, please. Sakipans, please go ahead with your question. Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
I don't have any question right now. So I would like to thank you. It is a wonderful and informative presentation. Just I want to convey, I have another meeting, I'm moving on. So on behalf of the audience here, I would to thank you for spending your most valuable time with us on free of cost and giving a lot of input. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Education is always free.
Yes, sir.
For the
That's all. In
speaker
this
also.
world, definitely the knowledge sharing is nothing wrong. See, I'll take it in the right speed. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot. It's very
Thanks.
informative, sir. I'll
Thanks.
just move on to another meeting, sir. So I'm not participating in the QA. Anyhow, that's why I just raise my hand and give thanks in advance. Thanks a lot, sir.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, Shomik says comparison of taxable turnover vis-a-vis TDS is always bound to be different until and unless someone purposefully hides his turnover. Yeah, Shomik, you are right. I have also taken this point, but well, what they will do is that important point here in this SOP is also that they have said that it will be one SOP, one scrutiny ASMT 10 for one financial year. So they will certainly have a percentage and they will compare that difference would not be over a certain percentage. If there is a wide difference in your TDS as per 2A and the taxable value which you have reported, then you can get a notice. Again, as we have said that once you get a notice, it is not the end of the world. And it is not as per the service tax regime. When the moment you get a show cause notice, then it would be confirmed. You can always get your explanation.
Good afternoon, Vivek.
Yeah, Shomik. Yeah.
What I feel that what are the parameters that has already been described, we need some kind of representation before the department. like the RCM liability comparison. See, whatever liability we are discharging for a particular month, we are taking the ITC in the subsequent period. So there should be bound difference, but we should know there should not be any difference on a higher side. But in many instances, what we find that in the month of April, the voucher bookings are on a lower side, but the ITC paid in March is on a higher side. So there will be bound to be a difference. So what I feel that above the 13 points, whatever has been prescribed in this particular SOP, we need some kind of presentation from the trade bodies also. So that we need to look into.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, it is right that this SOP requires representation, but trade bodies will only represent once we get the representation from our members. So Shomik, please do send us your representation, and yeah.
In fact, we had an initial discussion with some of our SGST officers. So, as you rightly said, that it is not mirrored by the West Bengal GST authorities. And if you find similar kind of circular has been issued by Maharashtra SGST, which is on a very positive side. If you go through that circular, there are certain cases which they have prescribed that when ITC to be allowed, what is the solution? That also Maharashtra SGST authority has given.
Yeah.
So we need to collate all these circulars, what are the positive points we need to take out, and accordingly we can make a representation to the CGST authority.
Correct.
Okay, Vivek,
Now,
thank you for such a elaborate presentation.
Thanks. Yeah, we'll take the other questions. Okay, Mr. Ashish Singh.
Vivekji, I am Ashok Jha. Can I put some one question, sir?
Sir, let me take from the chat box.
Okay,
then
sir. Okay.
We'll ask you. Yeah. Mr. Ashish Singh says, why table number 3.1.d of GSTR 3B RCM paid in current month is not auto reflected in the next month 3B? Table number 4A3. Mr. Singh, you see, in case of RCM under GST, you can take the input tax credit in the same month. It is not as per CENVAT rules that you can take it only in the next month. And that is why it is not auto-populated. You might ask a question that why it is not there in the same month, right? But I am sure they would evolve this, because now GSTR 3B is also auto-populated, but somewhere I think they are linking it with table number 3, 4, and 3 and 5 of GSTR 2A rather than 4A, but table number 3.1.d. So this they are keeping it as a checkpoint rather than as a auto population point. Also, there might always be a difference, right? Why? Because the ITC which you take, say the RCM, you pay the RCM on rent a cap, but you cannot take the ITC. So there might be ineligible ITC also. Okay. Can you please share the presentation? Yeah, we will share. Mr. Amit Deshpande says ITC reflected in 2A in September 18 and vendor cancelled his ITC in March 19 before filing annual return. Any risk will be there in GST audit? Your auditor might question this, but Mr. Deshpande, our legal submission is that ITC should be available. LGW Industries, Calcutta High Court dwells with exactly this point. Your purchase is before the date of cancellation. No need to worry. In fact, we have contested one case of refund on this matter. The special commissioner, he was very intelligent. He, changed the order that the documents have not been received. But on this point of LGW Industries, that if the purchase is before the date of cancellation, he has agreed to our submission in case of, contesting on LGW Industries, Calcutta High Court. So you should contest this, is our opinion in this matter. Mr. Rahul Patel said if due to oversight short refund claimed, then eligibility. Can we file supplementary refund claim under category of refund, or is there reflections under GST law to claim such supplementary refund? Mr. Patel, now I will tell you the flow of events. Number one, there are various High Court judgment which says that if you have claimed short refund, you should get the entire refund by means of a supplementary claim. However, on the GST portal, you cannot file a refund for the same period again. But that is a restriction of the portal and not as per GST law. Various High Court judgments have granted this refund in these cases. Our submission is invoke Rule 97 capital A. File a manual supplementary claim first. Rule 97 capital A was notified and is still invoked. We have contested this Rule 97A in various states. As of now, decisions are pending, but if the state or central departments, they reject your claim as per Rule 97A, the manual refund claim, then with that order, you can go to the High Court, right? But I'm sure that if the state or central authorities reject your manual refund claim, that will be at their own risk. So as a reply to your query, you should get the refund by the supplementary claim also. Mr. Jagatia says, can summons be issued by state as well as central officers? Yeah. Now on different matters, even recently Allahabad High Court judgment is there. I think I have not taken this because we have discussed this in various colloquiums. The proper officers section 3 circular is also there. For investigation matters, summon matters can be different authorities and central state both on specific matters can investigate. So if it's an investigation summon on a specific matters, yes, you can get a summon from different authorities. But if it is a adjudication matters or GST audit matter, then only your range or charge office can conduct the GST audit, scrutiny, etc. On the same matter, no. Then you can contest this. On the same matter, summons cannot be issued by state and center both. But do not, you see, again, invoke this your right under 160 at the start. Do not do this that first you appear to on both the summons and do not protest on this. You go ahead, submit documents to both the authorities, and then when they give an order, then you go to the High Court with the order that ab initio it was a wrong summon. Do it at the inception. Okay, with the one-time annual turnover discount received from supplier extracting GST. Okay, one-time annual turnover discount. Now, I'm sure you would be considering please see section 15 subsection 3 clause B. If it is a post-sale annual turnover discount is a post-sale discount. Question is whether this was agreed before the sale or not, that is to be asked. So you have to see three things. Number one, whether there is a pre-sale agreement that there will be a annual turnover discount or not. Number two, whether the credit note by which annual turnover discount is given, they are linked to the invoices or not. In the portal, that linking requirement is not there, but it is in the law, it is there. So you have to link the credit note with your invoices. That is important in the law. And last, if you are getting a credit note with GST, it is important that you reverse the that your you are issuing, then your customer has to reverse the ITC. If you are receiving, then you have to reverse the input tax credit. So 3 important matters to be seen to judge and form an opinion in the matter. Ms. Bhavna, yeah, you will get your PPT. Out of two, Mr. Daga says a company is not providing any taxable service, received a bill from an advocate, it is mandatory to take registration under section 24. Or is the company exempt, sir? As per the law, you have to take registration even if you receive one service where you are liable to pay GST under reverse charge. So prima facie answer is yes. Ms. Bhavna says, please state your YouTube channel. You can just search on YouTube Vivek Jalan GST and you will get it. Mr. Singh White, okay, same question. Mr. Bhargav Parikh, can ITC be disallowed under 17(5) for group life insurance premium taken in addition to serve mandatory requirement of workman compensation having high? Okay, if it is a mandated as per law, our submission in this is that the proviso which the department is contesting is for only 17(b)(3). Would not prevail and you can get the input tax credit for this if it is mandated as per law. But if it is not mandated as per law, then it is barred. Mr. Rajesh says now assessment of GST detachment is directing to pay GST which are not matching as per 8A. Yeah, with interest. Should we pay the same or go in for an appeal? Again, if it is not appearing in 8A, but you have got the evidences that the tax has been paid for this transaction, you should go for an appeal and contest this case. If all the requirements of section 16(2) have been complied with. Under 17(5), okay, is late fee system calculated for GSTR 3B for financial year 17-18? I'm not getting this question. Mr. Mahesh Arya says, why should there be restriction of 2 years for refund of ITC, which is our money? Any idea when this will be removed? Is trade professional body representing? See, Mr. Arya, there is always a limitation. This is the law of every country. There is a limitation to everything. So there has to be a limitation. You cannot claim refund after 5 years, 10 years. Yeah, but extending this from 2 years to 3 years as per the Limitation Act, that can always be taken up. As of now, I don't think any trade body has taken this up very seriously with the ministry. But yeah, if you require from your company, you can write to us. If you are a member of our CII or Bengal Chamber or any other trade body, we can take this up if this is a case, and most important, if there is a genuine hardship to many taxpayers. You see, whenever a chamber or trade body moves, we move only when it is a matter which is impacting many taxpayers and not a individual taxpayer. Mr. Amit Balotia says will be covered for civil work. However, civil construction is given to some other contractor. Mr. Amit, I mean, your question, I think, is incomplete. You can type it again, the full question. Mr. Shivakumar says in Karnataka, even we give proper submission in our 2A, the party upload details, but available, but in officer portal, not available. Not reflecting, they ask to reverse. No, of course not. Please do not reverse. Please contest this matter. If the officer cannot see, it is their problem. Maximum, you can give them a screenshot of your portal where it is appearing. Okay, Mr. Amit says whether design and drawing for any shopping mall will be covered under 17(5). However, the civil work is given to some other contractor. Of course not. It is 17.5D is only for works contract and construction. It is not for designing. ITC should be available. Mr. Rajesh says refund of IGST not released for 18, 19, 19, 20 due to mismatch of details as per portal in 1. However, how to go ahead for the refund can be amend GSTR 1 by amending shipping bill number and date and IGST amount. I don't think as of now you can amend 18, 19, 19, 20 GSTR 1. Better is to go for an appeal and contest the matter in an appeal. Mr. Singh says, can we take input of particular bill if I am unregistered person? You cannot do so. Mr. Daga, I have replied, yes, you have to take GST registration if your advocate firm which is providing you service is not registered and you are liable to GST under reverse charge. You have to take registration under section 24. Mr. Madhavan says supplier has not paid the tax. Can it be contested based on DY Bethel but department issues SCN and ITC not available? Just a second. ITC not available as it is a precondition to section 16. Supplier has to pay taxes views. See, the department can contest 16.2C, but yes, you can contest on DY Bethel and Arise India Limited. Most important, again, I keep on saying in my webinars and even my YouTube channel that most important is that you are duty bound to identify your supplier. If your supplier is missing, then it will be difficult to invoke DY Bethel. In DY Bethel, the case is differentiated because the supplier could be identified and was available. Swati, late fees auto calculated by GST portal. Yeah, I think late fees are auto calculated, but you can amend it if it is wrong. Okay, Mr. Mahajan, you have raised a very important question. Scan copy of bill acceptable as a purchase bill? Again, in our various seminars, I have been saying that no, it is not eligible for input tax credit. If you have a soft copy of an invoice, it is important you get a digitally signed invoice, not a scan copy of an ink signed invoice. We have faced such a situation in the central excise regime where in the state of Andhra Pradesh, I'm sure in GST also it will not be eligible for input tax credit. So ensure that you have a digitally signed soft copy of invoice or an ink signed hard copy of the invoice on which you take ITC. Transfer of MEIS script deduction under Rule 42 applicable as there are no such expenses related. Reversal under 42 for MEIS script transfers only requirement for common credit. So you have to call out the common credit and reverse the proportionate ITC. However, if there is a one-to-one relation with the MEIS, you have to reverse that completely. If there is a one-to-one relation with the taxable suppliers only, then you need not reverse that ITC. If you see Rule 42 formula, C1 equals to T1 minus T2 minus T3 minus T4. So that formula you have to go with. If you do not have any common credit, you will not get any C1 over there. Wrong availment of ITC without utilization. Can section 73, 74 be invoked? Department is still invoking, but ITC availed but not utilized. No interest can be charged. This is our firm opinion. Also, section 50 has been amended. So the case should be contested. Ms. Per, can we take refund of a particular bill if I am registered person as I have already paid the tax amount to the, if I am an unregistered? Yeah, I have replied that if you are unregistered, how can you take input tax credit? If our supplier is not paying the GST, then whether department can ask us to reverse the ITC. We have told you can contest on DY Bethel, Madras High Court and Arise India Limited. Important again, you have to identify your supplier. If your supplier goes missing, then it becomes difficult to defend. Okay, last Mr. Sachin says, can we take refund of PLA deposit? We have taken the refund of PLA deposit in the legacy regime. My answer to this is yes, you can take the refund of PLA in the legacy regime, subject to time barring. You please see the time barring period. I think in the central excise regime also there was a time barring period of 2 years or so. So as of now, I am not sure whether how you would go for the refund, but we have got a refund of PLA earlier in the GST regime. Yeah, so Mr. Ashok Jha.
Yeah, Vivek sir, just a small question. Actually, what commercial tax, a person from commercial tax enforcement came to our this business premises and noted out certain things. One of the things was that one invoice was entered wrongly under IRP portal, which went into GSTR1, but it was not a valid invoice, wrongly entered by one person. So we paid less amount of GST through 3B because it was not a sale. And subsequently, we raised another invoice, which was the correct invoice in next month, in February 22, and we paid the that amount of GST also. So he is saying that for that January invoice which you wrongly put, that you have to pay the tax and get the refund and log procedure. He is saying, and another thing he is saying that I will issue the order and accordingly you have to pay the tax like that. So what I just want to query is that these enforcement people, what are their order and where it can be challenged, because this is not the ward that the person came. And another is, can he do in these circumstances where wrong entry has been done in IRP, and then we are planning to raise a credit note against in March and reverse that invoice which was wrongly put, sir. So what is your advice on this, sir? And what is the order against that order, where we can go?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Now, first is that the enforcement, number one, even if it is raised in the IRP, have you filed GSTR1 in your GSTR1? Have you disclosed it?
Yes, sir. By mistake, the person disclosed and he could not rectify it.
Yeah. I just want the answer, yes or no.
Yeah,
Now,
yes. It was fine.
So then he is well within his powers to invoke his powers to recover the tax liability.
Right.
However, if there is no supply which has been done, it is advised to raise a credit note, as you also rightly said, immediately, and nullify that tax invoice. Once you do that, and still if he passes an adverse order,
Yes, sir.
then that can be challenged to the appellate authorities. If there is any coercive action, that can be challenged before the High Court.
So, sir, this enforcement director person is equivalent to DGII, or what is their level, sir?
Yeah. They are equivalent to GGGI. Enforcement, ED, their jurisdiction is across the country. They are equivalent to DGGI. They can investigate.
So DGGI is for central and enforcement is for state, like that.
It must be, you can call it anti-evasion or enforcement. ED is also there for center. For state also it is there.
So like audit department sends the order to our ward, so they will send to our ward or they will directly pass the order, sir?
They can directly they cannot pass the order. They will issue you a show cause notice, or they can send to your ward also and they will issue you a show cause notice.
Oh,
But,
SCN under 73, 74.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. So we can appeal it in this general procedure of appeal, like appellate and
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks. Okay, so yeah, few more questions we'll quickly answer in the next 2 minutes before we wind up for the day. Mr. Singh, if I file GSTR 1 on due date but file 3B after due date, can our customer claim input on the same month or next month? Next month. Is it mandatory to show exempt inward supply and non-GST supply? Mandatory, Mr. Shaw. Mandatory. Mr. Sanjeev says GST on sale of card not paid in March 22. How can this be rectified? Invoke circular number 26. GST for one period can be paid in another period. No problem. Okay. Kartika says by what time the officer should pass ASMT 12? Within 1 month of receiving your reply under ASMT 11. That is mandated as per the SOP. So friends, thank you very much for joining, and we will see you next month in our 10th colloquium on indirect taxes. Also, we will have a direct tax monthly update seminar. You can also join on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vivek sir, for this wonderful deliberation. Thank you all the participants for attending the webinar. We conduct such webinar as well. We will shortly share PPT and video link to all the participants. Thank you.